guessing. Where are you now? We'll go over that. That's not part of this meeting, but we'll go over it. I think Miss Etta's going to come and say grace. All right, check. I'm off.
Did the Holloman tell you to move?
Maybe. I think someone messed with my stack of papers here. Pardon me?
Someone took your presentation.
Yeah, that's all right. I got it.
Well, did you add some things here?
I did not add it. I just brought my
Did you
presentation.
delete this part?
I did not.
Okay, good.
Friend stuff. All right, there, Miss. Oh, there we go. All right, everybody hear me? All right, thank you for coming today. We're going to have Miss Etta come up and say the blessing here, the invocation. We, in case anybody needs to see myself or Mandy, we have officially moved. All right, we're in Etta's old office, right, in the front of Bunker. And Miss Etta has moved to her old office in, I don't know if you want to call it the back or the front of the back of this building. So if you go around the outside of the building here, it'll be the second door on your left. Okay, where Etta's office is. I'm sure we'll have a sign made. And this is it. We're feeling good about these moves. All right.
How long is this going to last?
This presentation? Forever and ever. Yeah. Etta liked her office there, she told me.
All right.
All right.
Let's begin with a moment of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity, first of all, that we get to be called your children. That means that you're our Father, and because you're our Father, we have access to who you are and everything that you have. We thank you that your hands are around this community as you guide us and lead us in all of our actions, all of our thoughts, all of our words. We thank you that everything that we do is geared to bring you glory. Now, God, as we prepare to look at the results of the survey that was completed by our residents here, our goal is to continue to do the things in which we are strong and also to work on those areas where we are weak. We ask that you would give us ideas and plans and strategies to make this community not just the best community in Lakeland, but the best community that it can be to flourish and care for your people. Thank you again for this opportunity that we get to live in community, we get to work in community, we get to worship in community, and it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
And just in case anybody out there in YouTube land is trying to get on this, yes, hello, trying to hear us on the inside channel, it is 2271. In case anybody can hear us but not see us. All right. Miss Pat, you got the clicker. All right.
I have the clicker. Can you hear me? Okay, we're going to get me volumed up.
We all thank Miss Etta for all her help with this. Check. That definitely turned me up. Try it.
Can you hear me now? Maybe a little louder.
Boop, boop, boop. That's me.
Can you hear me now?
Oh boy.
Doug and I may have to stay a distance in order for us not to feedback on each other. I'm just guessing. So anyway, good afternoon. Thank you for coming. We're starting just a little bit late. Oh, because technology is technology, and I think that's enough said. So anyway, glad to see you here. We are here today to discuss the Westminster Lakeland Holleran Survey results. And I'm going to be reminding you of some things. I'm going to be telling you some new things. And then hopefully, when we leave here, we'll know more about the results and what's about to be happening with those results. So let's see if I can advance the slide. Well, no, I need to drive if I possibly can, but let's see why we are not moving. Oh, I got it, yes, okay. Doug is a go. All right, this is the one, if I spend a little time clicking, just know it takes more than one click sometimes. So, I'm Pat Steed. I think most of you on campus know me. I will talk a little bit more about what my role is in a few minutes, but today's forum is brought to you by Westminster Lakeland Administration, and that will be Doug presenting, and your residents council, who I'm representing today. I'd just like to start by saying that who are members of the resident council? All of you, everyone that's not here today. Everyone is a member of the Westminster Lakeland Residents Council. But we do have Residents Council leadership. And leadership would be those people that you have elected to office or have volunteered to participate in committees or chair committees. And we have a vast number of people that serve the Residents Council in your behalf. So when we talk sometimes about Residents Council, we talk like somebody else other than us, but it's not. It's all of us together. So I just want to make that clear. I'd also like to remind you that on Monday, we have a Residents Council meeting that is for all of you. We used to call them quarterly. They're a little off quarter, but it's our official meeting of the Residents Council to conduct business on Monday, and we'll be meeting here at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So we hope you can be in the chapel at 3 p.m. next Monday, where we'll go over a lot of other things than this. So today we're going to be talking about the survey that we worked together to complete and to conduct a campaign on behalf of getting people to participate in it. What I want to start today with doing is setting hopefully okay, here I am. Okay, so our goal today. I always think a meeting needs to have some goals they hope to accomplish, and I hope at the end of this meeting we have accomplished some of those goals. First of all would be to have a general understanding of the Holleran survey process and results. It will be to remind us about our efforts at Westminster Lakeland to conduct a successful survey for our residents. We will report on how many people responded and how that compared with our 9 Westminster, Florida Lakeland communities. We are one of 10, like us, that fall under our Westminster umbrella here in Florida. We are going to provide some of the results of the survey and explore what that means. In terms of the survey itself, it was compiled, it was analyzed, and we're going to talk a little bit about the company that did this because they are professionals at this, and this is a very thorough study. Hence, I don't know the total, but somewhere between 40 and 50 pages of analysis, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how that looks, so you're glad that I did these slides instead. So we're going to also hear further information from our management about how Westminster Lakeland Administration will use these results to develop action plans that are coming fast to improve those areas that point out that need improvement from your survey. We're also going to hear how further information will be shared with the community. I want to, which is important because we are going to come back to you to share information. Okay, well, that was my next. Okay, a few things before we get started. I'm going to talk about some terms as we get into talking about this that will not be something, I have to define them, I apologize, but that's how the study and report is analyzed to give us information. But there's a few key words that I want to point out before we go. When we talk about Westminster communities, I am actually when I point out the information and call it Westminster communities, I'm referring to the 10 life plan communities that include us. So that means the overall communities. Westminster also has other communities that are not life plan communities that are part of them, but this is just about the ones that are like us. And Holleran is an independent company, an international independent company that's been doing this for many years. They are pretty much the gold standard of surveying communities like ours, and they conducted this survey and analyzed the results. And it's important for us to know that they actually, thousands and thousands and thousands of people have participated in these surveys, but their current number that they are reporting of communities that they're analyzing, I believe, was 688 communities. So that's a huge database, and then all the residents within those communities. So this is a very thorough database and a company that is very experienced in doing this. So there's three things that I'm going to talk about today that are important. When you took your survey, if you are in independent living, and this is important, independent living means that you live in a house, you live in a duplex, or you live in apartments on our campus. We no longer distinguish between the apartments and our duplexes or houses. Those were all independent residents. And so they were in those, they all took the same survey. Then we have people that live in assisted living. And assisted living is mostly in our buildings that next to Port of McGrath, our ALF building, but it's also Lonnie Johnson, it's also Howland DeLay, it's also Garden Apartments, it's also some people that live in apartments also have ALF services. So the surveys were done by the appropriate residents in the appropriate locations. So I just want to say that up front. If you are in independent living, you took the white survey, and that was specifically designed for the services that you get and the lifestyle that you live in independent living. So you did one of these. If you are considered assisted living, you got a separate survey, and it was green, and some of the questions were the same, and a number of the questions were different. So each one of these were totally analyzed, separate but equal, and so I'll be sharing the results of each one of these surveys with you. Oh, the other thing I want to point out to you within this, there were three parts to this survey. Back when we were doing the survey, we pointed this out to you, but it is analyzed. Some of the summary results I'm going to share with you today are in the same order. So the first part of the survey was called engagement. And so there were questions that talk about engagement. We're going to talk about what that means. The second part of the survey was called resident satisfaction. And that was a different part of the survey, asked questions in a different way. And then the final thing we're going to be looking at is comments, because many of you provided written comments, and those were all captured. And there were several places in the survey for you to put that information, along with some basic information on how long you've lived here, and also year of birth within the range. So those were the things that you shared on the survey. So some of those things are things I'm going to be going over today. So you'll see engagement, satisfaction, and comments. Another term I'm going to be using is mean. MEAN. And that doesn't mean I'm going to mistreat you today, I promise. But it does mean that we're going to use that term because that's how Holleran does the ranking of the answers and the results. And mean is generally a term that's used to report numbers, which is the middle point of those numbers. And there's many different ways that you can analyze averages. So if you want to think of this as an average, that's okay too. Then I'm going to be turning over the presentation, and Doug will have some of his own words to share with you. One of them is QAPI, I guess that's wrong. And we're going to talk about action plans, which is a big part of what he'll report, and other things that will come as we go along the way. We are asking if you would wait and hold any questions to the end of the presentation. There's lots of things we could ask about, but after the first two questions, we'd never get the rest of the presentation done. So if you'll bear with us and let us get through the presentation, then we'll have a question and answer period when we get to the end of it. And if any of you did not get one of the handouts, raise your hand. Mandy has those. Front row up to Mandy. So if we could go to the next slide. Okay. All right. Well, the one before this simply said, I am Pat Steve, and I am the president-elect of the Residents Council, and we're going to share some of the results today. I'm here on behalf of the leadership of the Resident Council and of Lucia Solomon, who is the president of the Residents Council. So, I told you that we had two parts of survey, the white and the green. So we're going to start with those of you in independent living. That means houses, duplexes, and apartments. And we're going to start with your results. So the first part of the results are going to look at engagement. But these are the factoid that I want to share with you. A factoid is just a piece of information. So obviously our survey was conducted primarily in June. We started on June the 9th, and we completed our survey deadline was July the 1st. So during that time, the Residents Council worked with the residents and particularly with our neighborhood representatives to conduct a kickoff and make sure that every resident had a copy of a hard survey or had access to an electronic version survey. We did have people that were traveling this summer. They successfully completed the electronic survey. And so we hope that everyone that wanted to complete a survey did. It was certainly not mandatory in any way, but your participation really made a difference. And so the voice of what comes out of this is all of you that actually participated in that. We kicked it off with tasty treats in the dining room where many of our residents came to hear about the kickoff, how they would get their survey, to enjoy a little bit of time together, get some questions answered. And then our neighborhood reps were really the key people that helped support the cause, along with our officers on the executive committee. And I just want to thank all of them for the amazing job that they did. Linda Demers was a critical part of that. Martha Pope, who handled our ALF responses. We also had Pauline Delaney from Highlands. We had Regina from Lakeside. We had Allison Braun from Terrace Gardens in Waverly. And the other officers and other resident neighborhood reps all worked together to ensure that we got you the information. And it was sometimes a bit challenging to make sure that we got there, and then to make sure that we encouraged everybody to put them in the mail. So let's remember, these were independently mailed to Holland, so nobody here ever saw these, and that's important. So how did we do? So this is very important. So we had 219 independent living residents that qualified to do a survey, meaning you were on campus at the time that they determined this, and 165 of you actually completed and sent in your survey. That was an excellent response. We hope 2 years from now we'll do it better. But it was a huge response for the first time we've done one of these under Westminster's leadership. And that yielded a rate of 75.3% return rate. Now, what is coincidental, I checked this twice, was the fact that Holleran, now think, they've got, I forget, hundreds, I mean, many thousands, tens of thousands of people submitted surveys over the last 2 years is their time frame when they do this. But out of 688 campuses, what they consider their benchmark response was 75.3%. So we exactly hit their benchmark. So that's a huge compliment to you for your participation in this. So that is a key factor. We've done well. We hope we will do better in the future. So now, one of the key things that was asked, and this was asked of all residents, but the IL response, or independent living, you were asked, would you recommend Westminster Lakeland to others who might be looking for a retirement community, friends, families, or anybody you might think, who would I recommend this to? And 71% of our residents would recommend Westminster Lakeland to others. So that was a large number, very positive we thought. And for all of the 10 Westminster communities, of which we are one, 77.6% would recommend their communities. So that was how we compared with the whole of 10. Ours was 71, theirs was 77.6. Okay. We're going to move on now to our next slide. And this is, again, on resident engagement. That was the section of the survey that you filled out using agreement. Strongly agree to strongly disagree. So these are terms that we're going to be talking about, and these mean something specific to the survey. So we need to read this together and look, what does resident engagement measure? It measures how well a senior living organization supports the successful aging of its residents. Resident engagement hinges on 4 domains, or 4 different categories if you want to think of it like that. One is voice, one is connection, one is fulfillment, and one is well-being. Those relate to independent living. We're going to look at some others when we get to assisted living, but those are the independent living ones. So what does voice mean in this context or point? Voice represents the degree to which residents have a say in their environment and community. So you're getting to have a say about what goes on around you and as a part of your community. Connection, this is the easiest one. Connection represents the degree to which the community makes it easy for residents to maintain strong social connections. So we think of us in our connection with the people within the community and our ability to have social interactions with them. So that's what connection measures. Fulfillment is the third term, and that term represents the degree to which the community fosters an environment in which residents can maintain a sense of purpose. So that's about you individually, about your sense of purpose continuing as you've moved into retirement and I call it post-retirement years and are happy you can't remember the details of work anymore in some cases. So the fourth thing is well-being. And well-being represents the degree to which a community provides comprehensive access to wellness resources. If Allison was here, she would tell you about the wheel and all the categories of wellness, and we all get acquainted with that. If we've been here long enough, we know the wellness wheel. We've been asked to fill out things to help look where we are in that, and that we have information ongoing about wellness is a big whole thing of many activities and many things that constitute our wellness as individuals. So those are the 4 categories that our results were measured into. So our next slide one, you were strongly disagreeing with whatever the question was, or you were strongly disagreeing at one, you were strongly agreeing at five. So the higher the score, the better in this case. So in these categories, we're again looking at the mean, that is the midpoint of your responses in our community. And so voice, the mean for that was 3.87. So if everything in the world was perfect and every single person rated at 5, you'd be comparing it to 5. And voice, remember, represents how we have a say in what goes on around us. Connection is the next category, and connection, the mean of that was 4.18. And connection is, again, about how well the community makes it easy to build and maintain, an important part of that, strong social connections. The fourth rating was on fulfillment, and that's how personally we feel our purpose is being fulfilled. And that score was 3.97 for fulfillment. And the fourth one was well-being, how we personally feel about our wellness resources, and that was 4.15. So those were the ranges of how we rank those for our community based upon that. And you think of that as like averages. Obviously, some rank lower, some rank higher. The majority of people rank from that point in the middle. So I'm now going to share with you those constituted what we call the engagement results, the first part of the survey. So now we're going to look at the second part of the survey for independent living. The second part of the survey looks at satisfaction. How satisfied are we with things in the community? And there were lots of things that were ranked within that. I'm sharing with you today the top three and the lowest three, because in between are numbers that on their own wouldn't tell you very much. So, but this is important as we concentrate going forward as part of what will be informing management as they look at the analysis of this survey. So the highest satisfaction scores were received for 3 items for independent living. The first was the quality of spiritual services, ranked 4.65 for our campus. Staff friendliness ranked 4.55, and wellness fitness programs ranked 4.45 in terms of satisfaction to community. So those were very high scores. Then we take a look at what from independent living were the lowest satisfaction scores. I'm going to have a caveat or a note for one of them, which I have here. But the lowest scoring satisfaction was quality of food, and that was 3.28. Healthy menu choice, 3.33. Quality of medical care, 3.34. Okay, this is really important, and one of the confusions that we realized would happen when we actually got to see the survey for the first time, and that's the questions about medical care, in this case, was the quality. And the questions were about receiving medical care through clinic resources on campus, and we don't have that. So the truth is, we're really NA on most of these. We don't receive the services. Now, we might wish we received services, we might whatever, and we may even be unhappy that we don't receive services, but we don't have any services to rank for the quality because those particular resources, we're particularly talking about a number of Holleran campuses, not all, but a number of them have services provided by an outside provider. And before I moved to this campus at one time, we also had that through Watson Clinic. But it turned out not to be used very much by our residents and didn't work out, and after a while, that was discontinued. And so the medical care, though it shows up the quality of it, very poor, we don't actually have it. So I just wanted to make that clear. This is something that actually is not applicable to us. The questions were asked was about people that were receiving direct care. Those kind of, and that's a whole discussion for another day, but those kind of services would be where they bill your insurance and somebody's here from some particular company that provides those services, and that's primarily what those questions were. So I just want you to know that is not the quality of care like is provided in our health center or in for ALF resources. Their questions are different, so I just want you to know that up front. Now, the last part of it, if I was asked once, I was asked about probably 62 times, picking a number, are they really going to look at any comments that I put in this? I want you to know that every comment that you wrote in this, whether it was handwritten or you did it typing in electronically, was captured and typed up in a report that has every single comment that every person on this campus made, and those have gone directly to administration and management with specifics. So for the independent living residents, now remember that's 165 or 70, made 550 individual comments. So people made more than one for the most part, some people made a lot. And of those, Holler then analyzes those to look at, are they primarily positive comment? Is that comment somewhat of a neutral? Because a lot of comments, I took a look at just a few of them, they were statements of fact, not necessarily that you liked or didn't like the fact. That was captured over in satisfaction. But the other was like then truly negative comments. So this is, oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking about something I didn't bring up. That might be helpful if I move along the way. Sorry. Okay, now we're on the same page. So the pinwheel that you see there, the pie chart, tells you how those positive or negative comments fell. So we are looking at 56.5% of the ones that are, you see in the gold color, those were positive comments. We got lots of positive comments about things that people liked about something or other on the campus. We also had 31.9% were neutral. They weren't really negative or positive. They were more statements of fact about things that they have or this or that. And then 11.6% were negative comments, and those are the ones shown in orange. So of those comments, it's important, these were also divided into positive and negative. So, and the three things that showed up highest in positive for our campus in comments were safety and security, dignity, we would translate that as being treated with dignity, and fulfillment, which we talked about before, feeling fulfilled in our community. In terms of the most negative comments, the ones that came up were maintenance. Now remember, the negative comments only constituted 11.6% of all of those that were submitted. So that doesn't mean it's a large number. It just means that was that, food and meals, and that covers the whole gamut of food and meals. And then one that was called general or other, because a lot of people shared some comments that were just like, I don't like my bathroom decor. And I'm not crazy about my bathroom decor too, so let me say that up front. But that was the kind of comment. So it's general. It might just be one person that made a particular comment about their circumstance or something that they didn't like or had a problem with. And so those were ranked into general and other, where there was just kind of individual comments. And again, all of those 550 in writing have been submitted. So now let's take a look at our assisted living, because our assisted living had a different survey, and therefore the report is different. And this seems to be out of order. I'm I'll tell you what it says. You might or might not have it in your, I don't know if you have it in your, this is what the slide says. So it just points out the fact that we did the survey, and in our assisted living, we had 48 residents at the time that had an option to do the survey. Not all of those people were at that point, you know, they might have been in the hospital, or they might, for various reasons, not wanting to complete them, but 31 of the 48 did complete the survey, which gave us a response rate of 64.6% in assisted living. So our benchmark for Holland, we got close to that. The benchmark for response for assisted living was 67.6%. So we were only like 3 points lower than that. So that was actually a pretty good response rate from our assisted living as well. But an important part that we see that was different in assisted living was that 61.3% of our assisted living residents would recommend Westminster Lakeland to others. And all 10 of Westminster Life Plan communities, the rate was 81.1%. So our community would make recommendations to others at a lower rate than all the other Westminster communities when we look at them together. I'm sorry I don't have that page. We'll make sure when this gets posted, it's in there. So now I'll go to the next one, which is the same way that we compared the engagement for independent living. We also did the same thing for assisted living, but we used some different terms. 2 of the terms are the same, 2 of them are different. So voice means the same thing it did for the other survey. It represents the degree to which residents have a say in their environment and community. The second one for assisted living, though, is a term that's different, and it specifically is dignity. And that represents the degree to which the community respects and instills residents' self-worth. Fulfillment means the same thing it did on our other survey. It represents the degree to which the community fosters an environment in which residents can maintain a sense of purpose. And then the final of those analysis categories or domains is called person-centered. And that represents the degree to which the community provides residents with the independence to make their own decisions. So looking at this, let's see what our assisted living residents had to say. Here we go. So again, this survey was just the same in terms of the engagement section that yours in independent living was, in that it used the same rating tools. Some questions were the same, some questions were different within it. But if you chose 1, you would be strongly disagreeing with the statement. If you chose 5, you would be strongly agreeing. So if you disagree, it's 1. If you agree, it's 5. So 5 is the highest number. The ranking for the mean is shown in the same way. For voice, the mean was 3.5. For dignity, the mean was 3.87. For fulfillment, it was 3.62. And for person-centered, it was 4.08. So it's, all these numbers are unique to our campus again. So what does that tell us in terms of then going to satisfaction? Okay, that was the slide I was looking for. So therefore, that probably is in there, the one that was talking about that wasn't, didn't show up. It's in the wrong place, but we'll make sure that that gets in the right place. Here we go. So now that we've looked at the assisted living engagement part of the survey, we're going to look at the satisfaction scores for that section of the survey. We're doing the same thing. We're looking at the 3 highest satisfaction scores, and we're looking at the 3 lowest satisfaction scores for assisted living. The first one, the high scoring, was quality of transportation. which was 4.40. And I want to call out lots of other campuses that was not one of the things that was high on their list. So that's really a kudo that I noticed that this particular thing on our campus is really highly regarded by our assisted living residents. The second thing was safety and security of grounds, and that is 4.3 on the scale. And then the third is effectiveness of rehab, and that is 4.23. So those are the three highest satisfaction scores by assisted living. Looking at then the lowest satisfaction scores related to assisted living, and I apologize, it says independent living, but that's actually assisted living. That was a correction that didn't get on there, sorry. The lowest scoring was temperature of food, and that was 2.68. Variety of menu selections, 2.77, and quality of food, 3. So I want to say this as we're looking at this particular, well, I'm going to go ahead and do the last slide and make this comment. Because now we're going to look at what the comments told us. Next slide, here we go. One more time. Here we go. So this is the comment section for assisted living. So looking at assisted living, remember we had 31 responses for assisted living. We had 84 comments. So our assisted living residents didn't write quite as many comments per person as our independent living. But this is what it told us. 53.6% were positive comments, and that's the gold in the pie chart. 34.5% were those neutral comments, that's the one shown in blue in the pie chart, and 11.9% were negative comments. That was very close to the same thing as we had in independent. I want to also say that when we saw a summary that had the 10 campuses overall, that breakdown is very similar to all other 9 campuses of Westminster in that that magic sweet spot was about 11 to 12 on the negative, and the other was divided between the other positive and neutral. So what were the most positives? Well, this, interestingly enough, lined up pretty much exactly with the satisfaction part of the survey. And I will tell you, as someone that's done a lot of survey things, when you get multiple parts of it that say the same thing, you can pretty much say that's a very accurate survey because people said in different ways that you ask it the same things that they liked. So the most positive was quality of transportation, also safety and security, and effectiveness of rehab. The same negative concerns were temperature of food, variety of menu, and quality of food. So those things very much align. So now I'm going to tell us something that we may be surprised, but we really shouldn't be. All 10 campuses of Westminster, food was the least satisfaction scoring pretty much across the board. So we are not alone. And there's lots of efforts on Westminster's part, and Doug will talk some about that, of addressing these concerns now. Before, it was an ongoing effort, but now with the survey results really reaffirming at the different campuses that this is really an area of concern, they will, of course, be addressing that as we go forward. So, one of the important things for us to remember, this analysis is deep and technical, and it's not that everybody, like presenting this to you, I hope that I haven't been too confusing, but I had to glean this information to make it more understandable. Some of the detail of this, and there's over 40-something pages, are like, this is 7.5 font type. How many people can read 7.5 font type? Well, if you were 30, you probably could. But but for most of us, and so it's a very detailed, but the summary of it is what tells us we should be looking at. What are we doing well? What is it we're not doing very well? And I'm just going to say this, what's management going to help us do about it? Because it's us working together that are going to change the things that we're not satisfied with as we go forward. So that's why there's not a data dump of all of this, because I know that I struggled to pull this information out and type it in these slides. And I have pretty good eyesight because I've had surgery. But the truth is, they analyze all kinds of things that are useful for management. This is a serious management tool, and we should be very happy that our voice has been heard. It is clear. We have made 550 plus 82 comments in addition to all of these analytical and things that can be calculated for how happy we are about our engagement in the community, what our satisfaction level is, and our individual comments. So I just want to say that as not a resident, but someone that used to do some of this kind of stuff in my life, this was a very, very thorough, credible study that you could spend the next year on, which management will be doing as part of their process. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Doug Henson, our executive director, who's now going to tell you how Westminster is going to use these results.
Awesome. How about Miss Pat? Wow. I'm really gonna turn you off a little.
As I said, we can't get too close together.
Yeah, hit that, turn that mic. That right in the front. Little friendly. There you go. This one. All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Miss Pat. Is that too loud? Maybe you can turn it down a little bit. Maybe here. Here we go. Check, 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 check. I might have to turn this off all the way. How about if I just yell?
No, then they can't hear you.
How about if I use yours? This one's too loud, right? If I could use a mic. Maybe. We'll get it figured out. Hello, hello. There we go. All right. Thank you to Ms. Pat for a very detailed explanation. Everybody give her a round of applause. Thank you, thank you. Awesome stuff. So, as she said, a ton of information, with this report, diving into it, trying to make some sort of sense out of it, is challenging just to, figure out what it's trying to tell you, right? Big picture, we're going to take the top 3 things that we think to work, that we need work on from the IL, for the IL residents, and the top 3 things we need to work on from the AL residents and try to improve on them. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to engage with you all to be part of the process to let us know, right? Some of this stuff, I hope you think, is already being worked on. I sort of printed it off here as the stuff that we're doing really good at and stuff that we need help with. Sort of a one-pager here. And, we know that the dining services is a key focus for all of our residents, right? Those of you that participate down there, some of you love it. We've gotten comments recently that I've had the best meal that I've ever had, and then we get the 180, opposite of that is I had the worst meal that I've ever had, right? So it can be very polarizing. We want every meal to be a great meal with good service, and, Brad is, committed to that, right? I'm committed to that, right? I don't like, hearing negative comments about what we do or don't do in there, and I understand, that we're trying to be the best restaurant for every meal that you ever have all the time, which is a pretty big undertaking, right? Because if you want Italian, you go out to an Italian restaurant, right? Normally, right? If you want a pizza, you order a pizza from the pizza restaurant that you like, right? If you want some sort of soup and salad thing, maybe you go to Sweet Tomatoes if there's a Sweet Tomatoes around, right? Or a restaurant like Fresco's that has a variety of salad offerings. But you don't go to the one restaurant for all of those. So we're working on that. We actually have a chef interview tomorrow that hopefully will be in line with this and will help us take the next steps. Right? We're trying to support it with the surroundings in the dining room as well. As you know, we have the big renovation pending. So I know this meeting isn't to go over each individual thing that needs to be improved, but dining is such a big one. It's definitely going to be on the list for both IL and AL. We may look at it as a bigger picture item, right? Things that we can do around dining to support dining that'll make the environment, the experience, the meal, better all the time, right? What other communities are doing, they maybe have stronger programs, but I can tell you that their response, right, the number one item that needed addressing at every community is dining services, right? It's such a huge focus, right? But I'm proud to stand here, and I appreciate the resident council's, support in going through this. That by and large, the comments were positive. So that's great. It's a great takeaway. But inside there, as Pat alluded to, all those comments, and I know you can't read it because I can't read it, right? We have every individual comment, and I'm going through them and trying to figure out what is a one-off opinion, what is something that really is taking root and maybe is more systemic that we need to address, and trying to discern between the two, right? Because you can imagine, this survey is supposed to be a report on the last 2 years, right? It comes around every 2 years, every year we'll get it, but it'll be a different group of topics. And some of the responses are, like Pat alluded to, I don't like my green beans cooked this way, right? I don't like, we should have more lactose-free ice creams choices. I don't know, stuff like that, right? Not that we had those, but I'm sure they're in this micro print somewhere down in there. So I'm going to get those together again, 3 for the IL and 3 for the assisted living. And I'm going to send up an action plan for those 3 to CSS in Orlando by the 18th of this month. So it's going pretty quick, right? And then, we will meet later on at our monthly training meeting and go over them, with the other communities as well, what the other communities are doing, what we're doing, how's it going. We'll run that through something that she had up there that was called QAPI, right? It's a funny little word CMS came up with. It's called QAPI, Quality Assurance Performance Improvement, right? Everything that we do in our community, for the most part, we run through our QAPI process. If we have stuff that's going really well, maybe we don't talk about that too much other than a support type mechanism. But if we have something that needs work, right, we develop a plan of correction or a plan of action, and we run it through the QAPI program, right? We identify, what the need is, if we can make any immediate correction, right? What sort of training we need to do to implement a new process or to support a process that's working well, and then we have ongoing monitoring from there, right? And sometimes the monitoring reveals to us that the plan isn't working. We need a new plan, right? So sometimes the action plans that we create aren't effective, right? They don't yield the results that we're looking to get, right? And so we have to create a new action plan. Any of you that have ever been a nurse or in government or whatever are probably very familiar with the plan of action, the quality assurance, quality improvement, QA system. They had all different names, right? Does anybody have any questions? I know we said we leave the questions to the end, but we're getting close. We've been here an hour. That was very detailed. Yes, ma'am.
I know they bring over.
No, we have to use microphone.
Okay. I was going to repeat the question, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's better if we just.
Yes. We always get comments from the YouTubers out there that they can't hear the questions.
I know you covered
a little bit about the comparisons from other communities.
Sure.
But I would have loved to see one page with the comparisons of all the communities. And
Okay. So she'd like to see a comparison of, other communities, how we compared. I think we can probably put that together. I do have the data from the other communities that was shared in the presentation that CSS gave to the resident council president and president-elect, and the other resident council presidents. We had a big Teams call.
So, and I just wanted to say, we're going to talk about that at the end, but we are going to have a follow-up meeting like this after those action plans are completed in a couple of weeks. The plans will be completed. So we'll have a future forum like this where we'll talk about what's in the action plans, but we'll give some more of these data points and information. The things that are easy to explain, but we hate to pass out a sheet of paper that there are numbers that don't explain what they are. So we're going to seek to do this in bits that are understandable and give you context, but also with the action plans when they're completed. But there will be another forum coming up. And one of the things that I've discussed with Chris is we're going to put factoids in the Lake Hunter Herald. So we'll put some survey factoids in there every month so we can focus on maybe a particular thing and put some information out that everybody would have access to as well. So we are all
Excellent.
going to work on this.
Yes, sir. She's coming back to you.
I'm not sure I understood. Are you going to compare Westminster with other parts of the country? Is that the information that we're going to get?
She was asking for Lakeland compared to other communities.
Okay.
Yes.
When we talked about the survey earlier, it was across all continuing care communities across the country.
What we're saying is Halloran does have the same survey that goes across, and ultimately our scores are compared to the rest of the country. Yes, we should have that both ways. I think that's what you're asking, right? If we have scores comparing us to our sister communities as well as nationally, right?
So how did that come out?
I need to look and get that, Mr. Landis. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right.
One more question. On the quality of medical care, it seemed like we just went over that like it doesn't apply to us. It's okay. Everything I get for my taxes, 32% of my monthly payments goes to that. So my contract called for support from the medical, and yet I'm told we can't have it. But I think that quality of medical care is probably even poorer than that if you compare it to what we were told when we were induced to come in here and what our contracts stated at the time.
Right. Understood. The at the end of the day, right, I believe what you're referring to is that the independent living CCRC contract is an insurance product, right? And you can have a deduction as part of that as a healthcare expense, right? That doesn't mean that the communities have a nursing license or a license to practice medicine in the communities. Some of our communities, right, some of them have the Curana product, right, that's on campus, right? And this is what the question sort of alludes to, is that do you have ability to go out there? Here, right, which we don't have the product. Ms. Pat mentioned that at one point, and I think you were here at the time, we had Watson Clinic that had an outpatient clinic, and people didn't participate, so it dissolved and went away, right, from what I understand, right? So, here locally, our ALRN supervisor, right, Miss Katie, she does, keep tabs on folks, and when they go to the hospital, we follow them to the hospital. Miss Etta normally shows up if you get admitted, right? Katie comes to visit. We find out, if there's any, transitions of care needed to the higher level, whether that be AL or the health center. So we do that. But I understand your question. Noon? See, if we were at Mission Barbecue, we'd have to stand up and do the pledge. Yes, Ms. Barber.
What are the 6 action plans?
Well, there.
Am I ahead of you?
No, you're all right. It's
Okay.
a good question.
I don't recall hearing them.
Yep.
I could be wrong.
Yep. So the 6 action plans. There's going to be 3, right, for our top 3 areas of interest for IL, and 3 for our top 3 areas of interest for AL. So that's the 6 action plans in total. I brought a piece of paper up here to show you, not that you're going to be able to read it, but every 6 months up in Orlando, we go through a process called mapping, right? I'm going to tie these action plans to our map because it's something that every community does, and it's important for us to be able to know that, how engaged are our residents, right? It's part of the mapping. It's something that we should be doing, anyway. It shouldn't be because of the holler-in survey, right?
Okay, I understand where that's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But are we going to see what you're doing to implement these plans?
Yes, that was another thing that Ms. Pat alluded to, mentioned that we're going to discuss with everybody in open forum what the 6 action plans are, what the 3 are for each level of living, and how we're doing. Again, we're going to run those ultimately through our QAPI process, that Quality Assurance Performance Improvement process, and we'll be able to show either incremental, progression, getting better, or we're going to show something else. And if we show something that needs more work, we'll have to consider adjusting or redoing the action plan for that item.
Okay, and you mentioned just when you were talking to this gentleman back here, the AL, nursing, health, things that are in place. Is there anything for the IL?
That's what he was referring to.
No, but I heard you say AL.
Yep.
That Katie checks on people, Etta checks on people. Is that?
Yep.
Okay, so that's IL too.
I'm just
That was
saying
what I
her
wasn't-
title is the ALRN supervisor, so I just wanted to be clear, what her title was. But she does oversee what happens out in the community.
Okay, that was my question.
Yep.
Is that included, or do we have a plan? So,
Yeah,
yes, we do.
she oversees that. That's something, right, that again, that we're going to be discussing at our mapping, right, as well as in our budgets. What do we do to bolster, that system? Different communities have different, ways of doing it, and, we need to look at it here. Any other questions? All right. So again, we'll be working on these action plans. Some of them I think that are actually already in progress. I hope Ms. Linda's not here, but some of you that are on the Dining Services Committee, that's part of the Resident Council, we take your input every month, and we try to do get better in dining services every month. Some of the things that we've done in the past, haven't worked. We've regrouped, and we're trying to make it better, right? And it's part of the engagement is getting you all engaged and getting your input and getting the things that that we can come together. That's a consensus and will actually help put in place, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to cook peas and carrots a certain way. Right? It's important to know.
I really want to just leave you with a community forum like today's will be held to brief all residents. So some of the questions you ask today will be some of the information will be coming back to you at that forum. The specific information related to the action plans, what those 6 are related to, what the actions are that are proposed, that will be coming back to you. In the meantime, we will post this with all the slides in order on My W Life, so everyone will be able to see the materials that we handed out to you today. And again, Monday is your residents' council meeting. It will be here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We hope to see you then. So thank you on behalf of the residents' council, and thank you, Doug, for all your work.
When we do have the 3 for each side, that'll be posted on IW Life as well, so everyone will know what those, we'll communicate it in open forum, but we'll put them on there as well. And, I'll commit to even putting some sort of tracking so we can see what sort of progress. Although, I think for Dining in particular, I'm sure we'll get some feedback.
And I remind you, we do have comment boxes all over campus, and every comment is taken to the appropriate Westminster staff person, to the appropriate committee, or combined with other things so that that information is conveyed. So none of those are throwaway, although I already know that there's no 3 people that like their green beans cooked the same way on campus.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I think we have, Wendy, are you immediately after, or are you waiting a few minutes? 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, chat.
3 o'clock, chat GPT. All right. Thank you. One of the things that's going to be on the list is being better at this sound system.